Okay, guys. So welcome to Intellipaat's live webinar on how to create a personalized dashboard on Power BI. Mr. Advait is a BITS alumni with a decade of data visualization and analysis experience. He has been in various companies with varying capacities as an analyst, visualization expert, and software consultant. He has extensive experience on business intelligence tools, report optimization, forecasting, and product reporting. With his thorough hands-on experience on tools like Power BI, Power Query, DAX, Excel, and Tableau, he has been a great asset in all his collaborations. So, sir, from Intellipaat side and the learners, I welcome you to the session. So,
Okay.
sir, you can continue with your training. Yes.
Sure. Great. Thank you so much. So that was a brief introduction about me. I've been in this industry from last more than a decade, you can say, and I believe that I'm doing a very creative part of data analysis, and that's what I'm going to talk about with some hands-on examples in today's session. Hello, everyone. My name is Amit, and I'll be talking about how we can develop some high-end dashboards with high level of user interactivity, and how we can add some high-end functionalities with a dashboard where we can give a good story out of the data to the end user with the help of Power BI. Now, Power BI, yes, that's the tool that is gaining a big edge over the other BI tools in the industry. Power BI is a Microsoft BI tool, which is a business analytics tool, basically, which is, in a very simple English, if I want to explain you, it converts data into information, and it helps you to develop some very interactive dashboards and present it to the user, where the user can get more insights with minimum interaction with the dashboards or the reports that you develop. So Power BI is what we are going to use in today's session, and we will see how we can use this particular powerful tool to convert data into information. About me, so I've been in this training industry from a very big from a lot of couple of years, and I'm not a professional trainer because I just teach people out of passion, and that's what I enjoy doing, because I am a self-taught data analyst, and I know the pain points where when a person learns a new skill, what are the places where what are the points where the person get blockers and where the person gets stuck. So this is what I do. I just take few business scenarios and I explain those scenarios in a very simple words. Now I want to show you something before we get into the action. Now you can see there's two images over here. An image where we have a raw data, and you can see a dashboard in the below section. Now let's say I ask you to infer some information from these two images. Now I'm pretty sure that and confident that many of you will be more comfortable in inferring the insights from the visualization part rather than the raw data. Even though you have no knowledge about the business or the data, but still you can infer some information from the dashboards. Why? Because over here the data has been presented to you in a graphical manner using some visuals and graphs, and you can process those information faster because human brain can faster images faster than text. So if you see an image, the brain processes that image faster than reading a text that you might have received over any communication medium. Now, talking about a real world example of visualization, if you open your mobile picture gallery, I'm pretty sure that you guys will be scrolling that gallery faster than reading a text. And that's the power of visualization. And that's why tools like Power BI or Tableau, or you can say Looker, these tools are gaining more and more popular in the industry because they're very fast and they're very easy to learn. You don't require any technical skills and any coding skills to learn these tools. And one such tool is Power BI. Power BI is a tool which allows you to create stories out of your data. Now, Power BI to Tableau or Looker, these are all comes under the groups of business intelligence, a term which is very frequently used in the data industry. Now, what is business intelligence? Let us first understand what is business intelligence. Business intelligence is a process of converting a raw data. Now, let's forget about all the definitions that you might have come across. In a very simple English, it's a process by which we convert a raw data into information. Now, this process, the word process, which converts the raw data into information, consists of a lot of steps like extracting the data, transforming the data, creating the data model, and then the visuals, working on the dashboards, publishing it to the report, Power BI service. These are all part of those process which converts the raw data into information. And these informations are getting used by the global teams, the leadership teams, to take some organizational and strategic decisions. Importance of Power BI, it allows you to create some KPI. KPI means the key performance indicators. On a very simple language, you can say that it's a target against which we compare the actuals. It allows you to optimize a process. BI allows you to improve the existing process in the organization. It allows you to get customer insights, solving business problems, getting actionable information in the form of customer segmentation, lead scoring, or time series analysis, A/B testing, variance analysis. These are all part of this process which allows you to get some actionable information, which at the end gives you a competitive advantage in the industry or in the market or in the whole business ecosystem. And if you can master the first few features, there are a lot of jobs available in the industry where we need some good storyteller who can convert data into information and create stories out of that. And one such tool is Power BI. Now, there's a rule for managing any BI project. This is the golden rule which I always consider and which we should consider all through our process of handling any BI project. Everything starts with business understanding. You should know the business first, the different process, the hierarchies, the different components of the business, how the business is connecting the data, what are the different sources of data. And then comes the data understanding stage where we need to check the health of the data, the quality of the data, whether the data is really can be used for solving the business problems or the data is capable of answering the business questions, whether we have the adequate amount of data to draw a conclusion about the business problems or the questions that we come across. Once you understand the data, depending upon the data quality and the health of the data, you plan your data transformation. That is the data preparation. Whether you need to clean the data, whether we need to how we need to handle the null values, or you can say ambiguities or duplicates. These are all come to the data preparation stage. And once the data is prepared, cleared, and structured, we start building the model. And the modeling involves the most critical part of your reporting, where you work on calculations, handling connections between the fact and the dimension tables, how you arrange your calculations, what type of calculations you have to perform. These all things comes under the modeling. And then once the calculation is done, you need to start building the report or the dashboards on that particular data model. So you can say data model is the foundation of your dashboards and reports. And then when everything is completed, it comes the stage of evaluation. Evaluation means whatever the reports or dashboards you have made, you need to evaluate whether the particular report is capable of answering the business questions, or whether the report is able to solve any business problems. Now, if the report is capable of solving those problems or answering the questions, you go ahead and you deploy it to the next level. Whether it's a report server, whether it's a Power BI service, whether you want to send it over email, whether you want to publish in a portal or a website, it depends on the business requirement. And all these steps revolves around only one component, and that is data. And this is the golden rule that we should follow in when I follow in my day-to-day work for when I while handling any BI project. Now there are various kind of BI tools. There are various kind of business use cases that we have. Like BI is widely used in the retail and e-commerce sector, the energy sector, banking, chemical, beauty products, airport logistics. These are some of the implementations. These are some of the areas where BI is playing a leading role, doing two important tasks. First, the cost optimization, cost saving. Second, customer segmentation. And this is done like tools like using these are the various tools which are used in that particular sector, whether it's Power BI, Tableau, Looker, Domo, MicroStrategy, Zoho Analytics, Oracle PI, Adobe Analytics, IBM Congos, and among which Power BI is leading because it's free and it's easy to use. Now, what is Power BI? It's a business analytics tool which consists of three important components: the desktop, the service, and the mobile app. Power BI desktop is the place where we develop the report. Power BI service is the place where we publish the report, or you can say the final resting place of the report, where the end user can access that report from the Power BI service or the Power BI mobile. But Power BI desktop is exclusively only for the Power BI developers. The end user has no actions to be performed on a Power BI desktop. It is exclusively for the developers who develops the report, the data analyst or the BI consultant, or you can say the visualization expert. The Power BI desktop has few important giveaway that is very important for the end users. When you start working with Power BI, these are the few things that you will master. First, how to work with messy data. Power BI is an excellent tool to work with messy data. The more the unstructured data, the more the data has ambiguities, or the more the data has a very unstructured approach in terms of the columns, rows, and arrangement, it's more exciting to work with Power BI with this kind of data. Second, working with Power BI allows you to calculate some very powerful data practices, like how to build a data model, how to work with calculations using DAX. DAX is the soul of Power BI. How to develop high-end visuals, how to use a correct visual. Now, if I'm asking you, when I say visuals, if I'm asking you, tell me the sales in terms of the different states, you cannot come up with a pie chart, right? We have to show something where we can compare the sales, like a bar chart. So these are the Power BI has a huge collection of visuals. It has more than 280 plus visuals, which includes default and custom visuals both. Another very important takeaway from Power BI is old school integrations. There are a lot of data sources which are very traditional data sources, like let's say Microsoft Access. You can easily integrate the database with Power BI desktop, and you can bring the data into the platform and you can start working. You don't need to have any specific qualification or any specific time period to start Power BI, to learn Power BI. You can start at any point of time, because it allows you to handle huge data demand. It can process large and millions of rows of data easily. It converts those data into information, which at the end allows you to build a data ecosystem in your organization or within your team, where each and every member of your team or the organization has data-driven decisions making power after you use this kind of BI tools. Now, Power BI have few components. The desktop part, where the developers are more focused to work. The components are dataset, report, visualization, dashboard, and tiles. Now, these are the components that you will come across while working with Power BI desktop. These are the components which will allow you to build the data model and the dashboards using Power BI desktop. A very simple architecture. There are a lot of architecture available in the web, but I consider this is the most simplest way to understand how Power BI works. which has three important sections: the data preparation, the visualization, and the users. Data preparation involves getting the data from the various sources, whether it's a flat file like PDF, Excel, whether it's a database like SQL, or analysis service, whether it's a cloud service like Salesforce or Google Analytics. You can easily bring the data, you can connect with Power BI, and you can start working on this data. And you can create visuals and you can share it to the end user. Now let us start working on the action part, where this is a brief which I wanted to give you about Power BI. Now let's see how Power BI, whatever things I have said, how Power BI help us to achieve those things. And for this, the best way to understand is to work on a small project, where I'll be showing you how to connect a data and how to create a data model, and how to create a personalized dashboard using that particular model. For that, just allow me a moment to open the required setup for Power BI. I'll first give you a brief walkthrough of the tool. People who are quite new to this tool will have an idea about this tool, and then we'll start working directly on the dashboarding part. Now this is the Power BI desktop application, which you can easily install from this Power BI website, the official website of Microsoft. You can go over here and you can click on Microsoft Power BI desktop over here. You can click on this advanced download option. You can select your language as per your region. I will select the English language over here. Click on download and you will get two options to download this application depending upon your operating system bit size. Nowadays all the operating systems comes in 64-bit, so this is the most ideal size. You can click and you can click on next to start the downloading the executable files for this particular application. Now this is a bit of high space application. It will eat a lot of space in your disk, so make sure you have a RAM which is more than 8 GB and an operating system which is above Windows 8. Windows 7 is not supported by Power BI. Now after you download it, if you click on the executable files, it's as easy to install any Microsoft product just following the on-screen instructions. Click on the next options and then you will come to this particular application when the installation is completed. Now this Power BI application has 4 important segments. The first is the report view. Second is the model view. If you can focus in the left hand side of your screen, my cursor, you'll have 3 icons over here. The first is the default view, the report view. Second is the data view. Third is the model view. And the fourth section is the transform data, where we actually prepare the data. The data preparation part takes place at this particular section, which is known as Power Query Editor, and the definition is it's a self-service ETL tool, where ETL stands for extract, transform, and load. Now once you're familiar with this 4 section, let us start working on building a dashboard. And everything in this tool starts with getting the data. And from where we can get the data, there are a couple of ways by which you can get the data. First, you can see in the screen, it's written add data to your report, where you can see options like Excel, SQL, or you can bring up, copy paste a data over here. Just below that, you can see the get data from another source. This is one of the options to get the data, but the most commonly used option is this get data option in the menu ribbon, where you can find the thumbnails of all the data connectors available in Power BI. If you click on more, you will find the whole set of connections, the data connectors which are available, which are segmented into groups like files, database, Power Platform, Azure, online services, and others. These are the data connectors that can be easily integrated with Power BI desktop, and you can bring the data and you can start directly working on the data for preparing dashboards and reports. For today's session, we are going to work on a data which belongs to a 150-year-old export-import company. And the name of the company is Valley Point Exports. Now, this company is in operations from last 150 years, and they have a huge data which they have tried to capture some in the Excel sheet, or some they have been captured in the database. Now there is a change in the management of this particular company, and they have decided that let's bring Power BI into the picture and let's see how much our data can help us to plan the future operations of the business. Now they have hired an analytics firm, and let's say I'm the person representing that firm, and they have asked us to give some analysis, some insights from the data. They have allowed us to do some independent analysis on the data and to show a dashboard which they can use to make some strategic decisions. Now, what they have done at the initial stage, they have given us a small chunk of data and have asked us to work on that particular chunk. So let's connect to that data first. I'll go to get data, click on Excel workbook, and I will get that data, piece of data which I have received from Valley Point Export. Now this is a sample data they have given. They have not given us the whole data because they wanted to understand whether the data is capable of getting used by the business users. And they have asked us to perform some independent analysis. Now this data has 4 tables: the customer table, the product, the region, and the sales details table. Now, being a Power BI developer, I have connected this 4 table using the get data option. And to check the health of the data, I will use the Power Query editor, the 4th section that I have just discussed. And to access that section, I will come down and I will select transform data option, which will load this data into the Power Query editor, where we will see whether the data is structured or the data needs to be removed, or the data needs to be structured by removing some ambiguities or any error. Just a glance. Even though they have given us a structured data, it's very important and a good practice to give a glance in the data and to check whether the data requires any transformation or not. Now, when I have received the data, my end goal was to give them a dashboard with some best functionalities so that they can interact with the dashboard, and with a less interaction, they get more insights from the report. So quickly, I'm giving a glance to all the tables. So I have the product ID column and the product name in the product table. I have the customer index column and the customer name column in the customer details table. In the region table, we have the index, the region details, the geographic details like index, state, city, country, full name. These are all typical geographical information that we have in the region table. The sales details table has a typical sales data regarding like the order date column, the currency code, the region ID, the quantity supplied, the unit price, the unit cost. Now I think the data looks good to me because I did not find any error, because if there would be an error in the data, you can see below every column there is a green line. So the initial EDA, the initial exploratory data analysis which I got, is that in each table I can see the green line below the column name. That means there is no error in the columns. If there was an error, this green line would turn into a red dotted line. I have a black line in the shift date column. The black line represents the null. So this column doesn't have any value. So what I can do a basic transformation. I can right click on this shift date column and I can remove this column. And then I will click on close and apply to load this data into the report view. And you can see I've extracted the data, I have transformed the data, and now I'm loading the data. So I'm performing the ETL operations clearly over here. And now the data, when the data is loaded, you can see in the filled column, the filled pen in the right hand side of my screen, you can see the names of all the 4 tables with the columns that we have on this table. If I go to the data view, I can see the values in those tables. If I go to the model view, I can see the schema of all the tables. You can see the schema of all the tables, and Power BI has actually connected, or Power BI has actually initiated a relationship between some of the tables. Now what I will do, I can delete these connections and I will show you from the scratch how these connections are done and what is the meaning of these connections and why we need to do this kind of connections between the table. So I'll right click and I will delete these connections for now. And the first best practices of data modeling before you start building the dashboard is to arrange the tables in a meaningful manner. Now this particular data view or the model view which you are seeing over here has 4 tables. Out of these 4 tables, 3 tables are dimension table and 1 table is a fact table. Now what are dimension and fact tables? Dimension tables are those tables on which we cannot perform mathematical operations, like the product table, the customer details table, the region table. On these tables, we cannot perform any operations, mathematical calculations. So these 3 tables are all dimension tables. So I will want to keep the dimension table in one level. So I'll bring the sales details table over here. I will quickly arrange this dimension table beside each other over here at the top. I will resize these tables so that they look uniform, and I will bring the fact table below. So I have arranged the dimension on the fact table as per my convenience. And now I will start studying this model. The first thing that I am going to analyze over here is, do I have all the required tables available in the data model? So I'll go to the sales table for that, and I will check all the columns because this is the table where we are going to perform all the calculations. Now I can see in the sales table there is no customer name, but I have a customer ID column. So for getting the customer name, I will go to the customer details table. I can also see that there is no product name column over here, but I have a product ID column in the fact table. So for getting the product name, I'll go to the product details table. I can also see a region ID over here, but no region name over here. So I'll go to the region details table for getting the region names, the state, the country, or the cities, anything. I can also see an order date column over here, the most important part because this is the time element in this table. And 60% of the reporting in around the world or any in the BI industry or the data industry is done on the basis of time, like last 2 years of sales or weekly sales or quarterly sales. So there is a time element involved in maximum reporting that we do. Now over here I have an order date column which consists of a lot of dates. There can be duplicate dates also because in a particular date there can be multiple transactions. So I need to have a table from where I can get a unique date. I cannot use this column because this column has multiple repetitions of a date. I need to have an arrangement in the data model that if I drag a date, let's say 28th January, I should get all the customer name and all the sales details against that single date. So let's build a date table. For doing that, what I can do, I will take the help of this calculation tab at the top. You can see there's a calculation tab at the top where we have 4 different types of calculations. And these are the options through which we perform calculations in the data model. And these calculations are known as DAX, which we achieve through DAX basically. And DAX stands for Data Analysis Expression, the most important part of working with Power BI. It's nothing but performing calculations using various types of functions and formulas in Power BI. Now over here we have the new measure, quick measure, new tables and new column option in the calculation tab. And if you hover your mouse on any one of the options, like say new measure, you can see that there is a tooltip coming up saying write a DAX expression that calculates the value from your data. Similarly, if I hover my mouse on the new column, you will say write a DAX expression that creates a new column in your selected table and calculates value for each row. Now over here, the requirement is that we need to create a date table in the model. And for that, I will take the new table option. from this calculation tab, where it's written as write a DAX expression to create a new table. So I'll click on this new table option, and I'll give this table name as dim date, where dim stands for dimension table and date is the name of this table. So this is how the naming convention works. You should use this kind of naming convention because it will give you an idea about which table does what. So this is the first step towards writing a DAX function, and it's very easy. DAX is very easy to get hold of because it's a logical implementation in your day-to-day work. You cannot learn DAX. It's just like programming. The more you practice, the more you become an expert in this. So I will write a function called calendar, because calendar function is a function that will give us a date table, and every calendar has a start date and an end date. So calendar function takes two arguments, start and end, and every function in DAX always takes few arguments, and those arguments are nothing but the inputs that we give to that particular function. So I will write I write a calendar function. Now there are two calendar functions. One is calendar and the other one is calendar auto. Now if I use a calendar auto function, what it does, it will automatically create a calendar or a date table in your model. What it does, it will go through the model and it will take the minimum and the maximum date and it will return your date table. So I just write a calendar auto and I press enter, and you can see there's a date table that will be created automatically, where you can see the start date is 1st of 1/1/2019 and the end date will be the last date that is there in my model. Depending upon the last date, it will create a range automatically. That is 31/12/2020. So in my model, the last date is basically 5th of June 2020. So what has calendar auto done? It has taken the last date and it has created a date table approximately using the start date and the end date. Another way of creating a date table is using a calendar function. Now you can see this calendar function, the definition states that returns a table with one column of all the dates between the start date and the end date. So I will use a start date as a first argument and end date as a second argument. Now what I want the date column that we are creating over here to be at par with the sales details table, because referring the order date column. So I will use a minimum function on the sales details order date column, where it will take the minimum date from that table, comma, you can see the end date is highlighted as the second argument, and I will take the maximum date from the sales details table, where the dates are there from the order date column, and I will close the bracket. I will again close the bracket and I will press enter. Now you can see what it has done. The calendar function has used two arguments and two functions. The minimum function will return the minimum date from the order date column, and the maximum function, max function, will return the maximum date. Now if I go to the sales details table, the minimum date is 1st Jan 2019 and the maximum date is, if I come down over here, it's 5th of June 2020. Now if I go to the date table, which I've created just now, you can see the minimum date is 1st Jan 2019 and the maximum date it has taken 5th of June 2020 from the order date column. Now what we can do, we can format this date column, because we can see that there are some time element associated with each of the date. Now how to format this? I will select this date column, and under the column tool option in the menu ribbon, you can see the format option. I can click on this format option and I will get all the available date format that Power BI supports. So I'll select the short date option. That is the most convenient way we use date, and you can see the date column has been formatted. I'll go to the model, and now I will place this date table beside the other dimension tables. And now that my data model, all the required tables are there in my data model, let's start with the next step of connecting this table with the fact table. Now why we need to connect tables? The fact table, because as I said, for customer ID, I need the customer detail, customer name, right? So I have to refer the customer details table. Now, if I don't connect the customer details table with the sales details table, we cannot access the values from there. Similarly, for product, region, and the date, we have to connect all these 4-dimension tables with this fact table. And the rule of connection says that to connect two tables, in both the table, there should be one column of similar data type. Now in customer details table, we have a customer ID column, which is of similar data type of what we have as a customer name index column in sales details table. So on the basis of this two column, we will connect the fact tables with the dimension table. Although the column names are different, it doesn't matter, but the data types of the column should be same. So what I will do, I will start connecting the columns with the sales details table. So I will take the customer index column. I'll drag it over the customer name index column over the sales details table. You can see the column is highlighted and the connection is been established. So similarly, I'll take the product ID column and I'll drag it and I will release my mouse over the product ID column. You can see there is the product ID column in the sales details table is highlighted. Similarly, in the region table, I have the region index column, which is similar of region ID column in the sales details table. So I will just drag this index column over the region ID column. Same for the date column. I will drag the date column over the order date column. And you can see the connection has been established successfully. Now let us understand these connections. You can see there is a 1 at the end and the star at the other end with an arrow pointing from the customer details table or the dimension tables towards the fact details table. Now what does this arrow 1 and star is all about? The 1 represents the unique value. Means this dimension table has unique values and the star represents the multiple occurrence of a value. Means the fact table has multiple customer ID against one ID, which is represented by star. And the arrow that is pointing from the fact tables towards the sales details table implies that we can filter the fact table using the dimension table. So generally when we apply a filter, the filter should have unique values, right? Any filter that you come across in a report, you cannot find a duplicate value in a filter. So this arrow represents that as the dimension table consists unique value, the dimension table can be used for filtering the fact table. And that's this arrow implies. Now if I do a right click on this connection, go to properties, you will find that Power BI supports 4 types of connections: many to one, one to one, one to many, and many to many, where 1 represents the unique value and the star represents the non-unique value. Now that the connections is done successfully between all the fact and the dimension tables, let us go and work on the other aspect of calculations. I'll go back to the date table and where I've created a date column. Over here, I want to extract some more information from the date column using tags. Now I want to have a column which will tell me the month number from the date table, date column. So I have a new column option, right? I have already used the new table option. Now I will use the new column because this new column will always add a new column to your data. So I'll click on this new column and you can see there's a blank column created, and I'll name this column as month number, and I will use a DAX function called month. This month function takes a date column as a reference and it will return you 1 for January till December. It will return 12. So I will refer the date column from the date table. You can see the dim date table name and the date column has appeared in the drop down. I will select this date, close the bracket, press enter, and I'll get the month number. So you can see for Jan it's 1, for Feb it's 2, for March it's 3, for April it's 4. So I've added additional information to the existing date table using DAX. I will again add a new column, and this time I will calculate the month name. And I will use a formula called format, which will take the date column from the deemed date table. The second argument is a format, which means in which format you want. So basically I am looking to extract the month name in a text format. So what I will do, I will write in 3 capital M, a 4 capital M within double quotes, and I'll close the bracket. And when I press enter, this column will, this function format will extract the month name from the date column. Now if I go and if I use this month name column and the month number column in a report, let's say I take a text table and I take the month name, you can see the month name has appeared in the table, but there is a mistake over here, and the mistake is that the month names are not in order. It should ideally show us Jan at the first month, then Feb, then March, but it is showing the month name in alphabetical order, which we need to fix. And we can fix this by sorting the month name column with respect to the month number column. And how we can sort this column? I will select this month name column. Under the column tools in the menu option, go to sort by column option over here. Click on this and select month number. And now if I come to the report, you can see the month names are arranged in systematic order, where Jan is the first month and December is the last month instead of the alphabetical order. Now that I have extracted some additional information in the date table, let us start working on some other calculations. As we are doing independent calculations, like we are doing an independent analysis on this data, so we have the liberty to perform some calculations. So I will remove this table, and now my focus will be on the sales table, because this is the only table where I can perform some calculations. Now let's create some calculations. The first calculation which I am looking over here is to have the total sales, because we don't have a total sales calculation or a column over here. Now what I don't want to add a column for total sales, because it is unnecessary, will increase my data load, right? My model will become heavy. But I want an arrangement where I will do the calculation of total sales without adding a column into the existing table. And that can be achieved through by using this new measure option, the very first option in the calculation tab. New measure is an option in DAX which allows you to create a calculation without adding any physical data to your model. It's just like a virtual calculation which you can see from your eyes, okay, like a column name under the table, but you will not find any physical data in your table against that calculation. Measure is the most commonly used option and the most highly implemented option that we use in our day-to-day work for performing calculations in our data model. I'll click on new measure and I'll name this measure as total sales. And I'll use a DAX function called SumX for getting the total sales. Why I'm using a SumX? Because SumX is a function that allows you to multiply or to use multiple columns. So over here we have the quantity and the total, the unit price column, which we will multiply to get the total sales, right? And SumX allows us to do that. So first we will need to check what are the arguments SumX takes. It takes the table as a first argument and the expression as a second argument, which means the logic. So let us give the first argument, the table argument. And what is the table that you are going to give as an argument? The sales details table name, because that is where we are performing the calculation, right? Comma. In the expression, I will perform the logic. And what is the logic for the total sales? Quantity. You can see the quantity column into unit price. So you can see the drop down, the unit price column is also showing along with the table name. We'll close the bracket, press enter to implement this calculation. And you can see there's a total sales measure created in the sales details table. But if you see the data, there is no physical column added over here. And that's the beauty of measure. You can create huge calculations. You can do big calculations using measure without even adding a single data. So in that case, what is the advantage of that? The data model remains very light, because adding more data means data model will become heavy, which will actually affect the dashboard performance, which can be taken care by creating measures in your model. Just like total sales, I will create total cost. I'll right click and I'll get the new measure option over here also in the drop down. If you right click the table name, you will see the new measure option is also. This is the second way of using creating a measure. So you can click on new measure. You can name this as total sales. Total cost. And I will again use a sumX function where I will give the sales table name. I will multiply the quantity into unit cost and I'll get the total cost. Similarly, I will get the profit. I right click again, take a new measure, and I will name this measure as total profit, where I will use the measure that I've already created, sales and cost. So this is another feature of measure where you can refer a measure to create another measure. So I will write the measure name total sales. You can see the drop down, the measure name has appeared. Total sales minus total cost. It will return me the total profit. Similarly, I can find the profit margin. I will again take a measure and I will name it as profit percentage. I will use a divide function and I will use the measures that I have already created. So profit percentage is total profit by total sales. So I'll take the total profit. Divide function takes two arguments, the numerator and the denominator. So numerator is total profit, denominator is total sales, and the third one is alternate result. Means if anything goes wrong in the denominator and the numerator, the alternate result will always return you as 0. We close the bracket, press enter, and I've got another measure called profit percentage. Now let's start building the dashboard, as we have some measures created over here. Now there are two ways of creating a dashboard. Either you can first create the calculations and then build the dashboard, or you can start developing the dashboard along with the measures. So I will start creating a dashboard. Dashboarding is a very creative part of your work. So first what I will do, I will insert a shape at the top and I will format this shape. I'll take a dark gray color, a light gray color, and I will take insert another shape where I will name the title of the dashboard as sales overview. I'll change the font color to black, the font style to bold, and let's increase the size from 10 to 14. I'll remove the border and I'll place this title over this strip. I can also insert an image. So I'll go to the insert option, click on image, and I will insert a logo of this company and I will place it over here, this corner. I'll format it a bit. So what I have done, I've added a shadow over here. So I've created the headings and the logo. Now let's start using these measures that we have created. Now I want to create a table where I want to show the sales and the profit. Now let us first discuss the requirement. So I want to create a table where I want to show two different tables. The first table should show me the customer profit, sales and the profit percentage, and the second table should show me the product profit, sales and the profit percentage. I also want to have an option where if I hover my mouse on any one of the product or the customer, or let's say any one of the customers, I want to see a tooltip coming up saying the total cost that I have incurred on that particular customer. Apart from that, I want to have an arrangement in the profit column where I need to have some indications where I can see those, where I see that column and I can say how what is the highest profit and the lowest profit. Now, I want to place the two tables in a dashboard in a such a way that the user can toggle between both the tables with a button. If the user toggles right, the user will see the customer table. If the user toggles left, the user can see the product table. So I want to give maximum information in one interaction. Instead of placing two different tables in the dashboard and consuming and wasting the space of the dashboard canvas, I need to have this kind of actions added to my dashboard. So let's first create the table. Now before I create the table, okay, so let's first create the table. So I'll take a text table visual over here and I will resize this table over here. Let's say I bring the customer name from the customer details table and the total sales, total profit and the profit percentage. The profit percentage are in decimal. So I will select this profit and I will format this measure. So when you click on this profit percentage, you can see in the menu ribbon there is a measure tool option that comes up. Where if I click on percentage, you can see the profit percentage are converted into a percentage value from the decimal value. I can further make this table more interactive. So I can go to format, I'll go to the column header option and I'll change the font size to semi bold. I'll also go to the general option, click on effects. I can add a visual border. I can make the corners round of this visual. And you can see now this table looks a bit more interactive with the borders and the round corners and all. It looks a bit more interactive compared to the previous version. Now that I've created a customer details table, I'll use Ctrl C, Ctrl V to create a copy of this table. And I will replace the customer name with the product name from the product details table. And now I can place this table beside each other. And now that I have created these two tables, as I told you, I will be using an option where the user can toggle between these two tables. Now placing these two tables beside one another is not a good option in your dashboard, right? It's just wasting some space. So I need to use an option where I can show both the information in one place. For that, I will use the option of bookmark. So what I will do, I will go to insert and I will insert two buttons image. One is toggle left, one is toggle right. I will resize these buttons and I'll go to insert and I'll click on view. I click on bookmark and the selection pen. I will select these two button table. I will use the selection pen and I'll click on add to create a bookmark with the name called customer. I will again bring back them. I'll again select the product and the second toggle button and I'll create a bookmark called product. Now that I've created a bookmark, I'll go to these buttons and I will assign this bookmark as an action for each of the button. So you can see there's an action option coming up over here. I will enable this action, go to action type and I'll select bookmark and I will select the bookmark name customer over here. I will again go to the right toggle, enable the action type will be bookmark and the bookmark name will be product. And now if I click on customer, you can see the customer table is coming, for product table is coming. Now what I will do, I will place the product table above the customer table. I'll place the bookmark over here. And now if I click on this bookmark, you can see if I toggle right, I'm getting the customer table. If I'm toggle left, I'm getting the product table. So I'm not using much space. I'm just showing multiple information in one place. And this is what we have achieved through bookmark. Now that I've created a customer table and a product table, let us create some cards where I will give an idea to the end users as some KPI values. So I'll create a card. I'll take a card visual and I will resize it. I'll place the total sales into the build option. I'll go to the format option. I'll change the category values to Arial black font and the size of the font, let's make it 20, and the category label, let's change it to semi bold. Resize the card, add some border and place these cards at the top right corner. I'll create some copy of the card and I'll place them one after the other. So the first card is showing the total sales, second card will show the total cost, third card will show the total profit, and the fourth card will show the profit margin. Now that I've created a card over here, let's create some more DAX function. Let's say I want to have a DAX function which will return my last year sales against each of the date that I have in my data. So I can right click and again create a measure for that, and I will name that particular measure as sales last year. And I will use the calculate function, the most powerful function in DAX, one of the most powerful function, let me say that. Calculate allows you to evaluate the logic that you write. Calculate function is function that we don't use in isolation. We have to use a filter function or a supporting function with that. So this calculate function will calculate the total sales which we have already calculated for last year. So I will use a function called same period last year. Now, as this is a time element last year, I will apply it in the date column, and the date column will be from the dim date table. So I will write dim date over here, and you can see the date table as date column is showing over here against the dim date table. I'll close the bracket and I'll press enter. I'll create a copy of the product table. I'll bring it over here. I'll remove all the major values over here. I'll bring the date column from the dim date table. I'll remove the hierarchy from the date because date hierarchy is a default behavior of date in Power BI. So I'll remove the hierarchy. I'll bring the sales, total sales, and the sales last year measure. And you can see for each of the date, I have the present sales and the last year value for that date. But for 2019, I don't have a last year value because my data doesn't have a 2018 data. But for 2020, I can have the 2019 sales value, right? So what I can do, if I scroll down, you can see for 2020, 1st of Jan, the last year sales is the sale of last year Jan 2019, which is 414529. If I go at the top, you can see the last year sales is 414529 for 2019. So this is how we can create the last year sales. Now I want to create a table where I want to have the seasonal sales from my data. So I need to have 4 sales, let's say summer sales, winter sales, autumn sales as an option in my report. So I've got a requirement where the end user wants to see the seasonal sales from the data. So what I will do, I will right click, I'll take a new measure and I've named that particular measure as summer sales 2019, where I will use a calculate function to calculate the total sales which has happened between the month. Let's say the summer season was between June to August. So I will use a function called dates in between, which takes 3 arguments: the date, the start date, and the end date. So the date will be the order date column. The start date will be, I'll use another function called date, where I will give the year as 2019, the month as, we decided that summer will be June to August, right? So I'll give the month as 06 and day will be 1. This is the start date of the summer sales. The end date will be August, right? So I will use another function called date, where I can give the year as 2019. For the month of August, it will be 08, and let's say it will be 31st August. And I'll close all the required bracket, press enter. Now let's say if I remove this date over here and I bring the customer name and I bring the summer sales measure over here, so I can have the summer sales. Similarly, I will have the winter sales. So I can just copy down this logic. I'll right click on the table name and I will have the winter sales. I'll change the name from summer to winter and I'll change the winter dates. Let's say for the winter, let's say I want to give 12 from December to 2020. Let's say December, Jan and Feb. So I'll give Feb as 2. Let's say Feb has 28 years for 2020 and I will have the winter sales. Similarly, I have the autumn sales. I'll copy this, right click, I'll create a new measure and I will have the autumn sales over here, where I can change the date of the autumn from 2019. Let's say I want to have the autumn month from month of October, November, let's say from September to November. So I'll select it and I'll change it to 9 to 11 November. So I will have the autumn sales over here. Similarly, I will have the spring sales. So I right click, take a new measure and I can change the name as spring and I'll change the date from the spring. Let's say I will have it from March 2020 till May. So I'll give 3rd March and then I'll give to 2020 May 31st. And now I'll give a spring sales. Now you can dynamically create this kind of season sales in your data also. I want you guys to work on that particular thing and do a bit of brainstorming, just to help you to start give you something to start where you can think about how I can make this seasons dynamic. So I want an option where if I select summer, the whole report should show me the summer sales. Over here, I have done it statically. So these are all static functions, but you can, with a little bit of change in the logic, you can make these functions more dynamic. And you can see that the dashboard has started taking shape slowly. So we can just place this table beside this in the middle. And now you can see there is no space over here. I cannot add more visuals over here in this dashboard. So what I have to do, I have to increase the space. I'll click on the blank area, go to format, click on canvas settings, and from the type option, I can select custom and I can increase the height from 720 to 1000. From the view option, I can change the page view to fit to width. And you can see there's a scroll bar added where I can add more options. So let me increase it to 1200 as of now. And the next visual that I'm going to work on is options where we will see how we can create a drill through option in the dashboard. So I have a requirement where the end user is saying me that give me an arrangement in your dashboard where if I click on any product name, I should take to a different visual in a different page in the same Power BI workbook, which should show me the profit for those product. Now before that, I missed to say you two things which was a part of the requirement of this particular table, where I wanted to tell you that there was a requirement where if I hover mouse on any one of the customer name, I can see the total cost for those customer names, right? This is the first requirement, was also one of the requirement when I was working on this. So let's create a tooltip for this. So what I will do, I'll go to a new page and I'll name this page as tooltip. I will go to format and I will change the canvas settings from type to tooltip over here. I'll take a card visual over here, or let's say I'll take a card from this page, the total cost card, copy it, and I'll paste it over here, and now my tooltip is ready, right? I will hide this page. I'll go to page 1, select this visual, go to option. I'll enable the tooltip for this visual, expand this, and the tooltip type. Okay, so I have to also enable the tooltip for this page also. So I'll go to this tooltip section and I will just select this page information, allow use of tooltip. You can see there's an option over here, allow use as a tooltip. So this allow use as a tooltip option will allow me to use this page as a tooltip. Now I will go over here, select this visual, go to general option. I have enabled the tooltip for this visual. I'll expand that and you can see the name of the tooltip page over here. And now that I have selected the tooltip for this visual, if I hover my mouse on any one of the customer name, I can see the total cost for that I have spent for that customer. You can see this tooltip is working. So each of the customer, I can see the total cost I have incurred. I also told you about a requirement where I need to have an indication in the total profit column where I can see the profit, the highest profit at the top, and with some color coding. So let's say I want to add some color bar to this total profit column. So what I will do, I'll select this visual, go to total profit, select conditional formatting, select data bar, and I can select green color for positive and orange color for negative. And you can see over here I have added a color coding for the total profit, where I can see the top profit at the top and the color codings according to that. So this is how you can make things more interactive. So this is how we can see how the total cost and the total profit is getting so much indicative and interactive. Now if any user comes to this report, the user don't have to make much effort to understand how the profits are working and how the custom names are coming over here. Now you can see this dashboard is looking so much of interactive. We can see a lot of information in one place, right? We can get the total cost from this table. We can toggle between the different table. We can have the seasonal sales. And now let's have the drill through options. So what I can do, I can take a donut chart and I can bring the product name over here and the total sales. I can format this donut chart. I can remove the legends and I can remove the data label, and I have a very clean donut chart over here, right? Now what I want, if I click on any product name, you can see the product name. If you hover your mouse over here, you can have the product name, the total sales. Now over here, what I want, if I click on any product name, I want to see another visual which will show the profit for these products in terms of country. So what I can do, let me first name this particular page as sales details, and I'll create another report. I will name it as profit analysis, and I'll take a card visual over here and I'll bring the total the product name over here, I'll take a bar chart and I'll bring the total profit into the values and the country wise. So I want to see the country wise profit, right? So I'll go to the region table and I'll bring the country over here. I'll format this chart and I will enable the data label where I can see the profit numbers against each of the country. Now what I want, if I click on any product name over here, the product name, I should be taken to this particular page. I can see the product name over here which I have clicked and the profit associated with that particular product in terms of the country. For this, what I will do in the profit analysis page, there is a drill through option you can see over here, where I can bring the product name over here. And now if I come over here, if I right click on any product name, let's say I take this particular product LL Crankum. I right click on drill through, click on profit analysis. I can see the name of the product LL Crankum over here and the profit associated with that particular product in terms of country. I will again go back to the sales details table. I'll click on the next product. Let's say I click on this chain stays. So I can see the chain stays at the name over here and the profit associated with chain stays in terms of the country. So this is how the drill through works. It's a very highly used option where we can have multiple information. We can make one chart as a source and the other chart as a target, and I can access that chart. The same thing can be achieved within the same chart. Let's say I take a bar chart over here and I expand this bar chart over here. I bring the date from the date table and the total profit from the sales details table. You can see at the top right corner of this bar chart, there are some arrows pointing upwards and downwards. If I click on the fourth arrow, it is showing me the profit in terms of quarter, month, and day. So what I am doing, I am showing 4 different types of information within the same chart. As we know that date has a default hierarchy in Power BI. So this particular hierarchy is allowing us to show the data, to see the data in 4 different formats: the year, the month, the quarter, the month, and the days. This is called drill down. The previous example that I showed you was a drill through. I can also create drill down option through non-hierarchic value. Like let's say I want to have the country, state, region in this particular chart. So I can go to the region column, region table. I can bring the country over the axis, the state, and the city. And I can see there's a hierarchy created. From the country, I can see the profit, then the state, then the city. So this is how it works. I can also create hierarchy in my data. I can right click on the country name and you can see there's a create hierarchy option. So I can create a hierarchy. You can see there's a hierarchy created in country. I can add the state under that country hierarchy. You can see add to hierarchy option. I can add the city to that hierarchy, and then I can bring the country hierarchy over here, and it will work in the same way like the date was working. So I can have 4 different types of information in single chart, which drill down allows me to do. So we have seen bookmark, we have seen drill down, we have also seen drill through. Now another thing that I want to show is a very interesting thing, is called how we can use variable in DAX, a very advanced level implementation. Now let's say I have this particular report over here where if I send this report to my European counterpart, I have an operational center is in Europe. Now I want this, all reports are in INR value. Now let's say I want to send this report to some European counterpart where a person is going to use this particular report. Now I want to have I cannot create a report in European value separately, right? These are all in INR value, let's say. I want to give an option to that particular person where if the person selects Euro, all the value which uses where I'm showing the currency value will be converted into Euro. Let's say, for an example, let's say I take this total sales. I have a total sales measure, right? So in this total sales, all the values are showing INR value at present. Now I want to have an option in my data where if I click euro, all the total sales value should be converted into euro. For that, I will go to enter data. I'll create a table called currency converter. I'll name a column called currency. I'll name this as euro and INR. I'll load this table. Now I've got a table over here called currency converter. You can see where we have values like euro and INR in the currency column. Now what I will do, I'll come to the total sales measure and I'll create a variable. Let's say var a. This a variable is storing the calculation of the sumx. Now that the total sales is stored in the sumx value is stored in the variable a, what I will do, I'll use a option called return. So variable is an option which allows you to store value and you have to use a return statement with that. And now I will use a conditional statement. If selected value from the currency converter table is equal to euro, then divide a by 87.3, which is the current euro value, let's say, and return a. Press enter. Now that we have created a value over here, I will take a slicer. So let's take a slicer over here. We have a slicer value over here. I'll take this slicer at the top just so that you can check how things are working. I'll bring the currency column from the currency converter over the slicer field. And now if you see, if I select euro, the values in the total sales column has changed. Again, if I select INR, it will show me the INR value. Again, if I select euro, it will show me the euro value. And if I don't select anything, by default, it will show me INR value. This is the magic of using variables in your DAX. So this is how we can create a variable in the DAX. Now you can see this dashboard being it's looking so simple, but how much functionalities we have added, like bookmarks, drill down, drill through, variables. We have also added tooltip for each of the customers where you can see the tooltip values. We have also added conditional formatting over here. We have also created the summer, the seasonal sales. So the idea behind this particular session was to show you from the scratch how we can build a dashboard by creating a data model and by connecting the tables, by how to use a DAX function from a basic DAX function to dynamic and advanced DAX function. So my idea behind having this particular session with you was to show you some of the best practices of using a dashboard and how we can create a dashboard using those practices. I hope I was able to make things very clear to you. For more videos related to Power BI or Tableau, please follow the Intellipaat YouTube channels because we come up with this kind of sessions very frequently where we talk about some of the specific actions that we have in dashboards and we can create an interactive and dynamic dashboard using those actions. Thank you so much.